Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Believe in best.
Tonight on our news, limited access to government ministers before today's cabinet meeting. Our Bethany McDermott was there. The tourism minister predicts a brief closure for the Hilton property. No decision yet on whether or not students will sit national exams this year. And would you know what to do if attacked by dogs? Our Sharika Johnson takes a closer look. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Christina Dragovich. Topping news tonight, limited access to government ministers outside the office of the Prime Minister posing a challenge this morning when members of the media showed up to the weekly cabinet meeting. Bethany McDermott has the details.
Members of the media greeted with limited access to government ministers this morning outside the weekly cabinet meeting. These cones restricted access to the office of the Prime Minister, hampering media's attempts to interview government ministers. According to a statement issued by OPM, the cones are in place every day and are a part of the Royal Bahamas Defense Forces security practices. Unable to approach ministers or even their aides, this was the result. Hey! The only minister to come out sometime later was Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper. After more than an hour, Communications Director Latrey Ramming and Watson invited reporters inside for a meeting on one condition: no cell phones.
Come with me, we'll have a discussion first. Your technical crews can leave. No cell phones. We're going to have a quick discussion.
We could leave? What you say?
Technical people can leave. No, the technical people, you can remain. Leave your cell phones.
Okay.
Leave your cell phones.
Leave your cell phones.
You can't come in. Decide what you're going to do.
Inside that meeting, Watson immediately went on the defense, saying no ministers owe interviews to media on their way to cabinet, and reporters cannot depend on cabinet to get stories. However, Watson took a different stance in his role at Eyewitness News and beyond the headlines in 2019.
Today, at cabinet, the procedure changed when reporters who routinely gather every week since time immemorial and from consecutive administrations for the first time found themselves caged in a barricade from the back to the front and pushed further back from where ministers arrive, seemingly to control them from approaching ministers on issues. However, despite the Defense Force officer, the same one there, they seem to be the bullies, explaining this to be the new norm, then the secretary to the cabinet, in an unusual appearance, she never does this before, came downstairs to explain to the media that the barricades were to stop cars from driving up on the sidewalk behind them, something that never happened before on any Tuesday morning. Yet she said that was what it was for. She was further supported by the Director of Communications, who you see in the background, and from the office of the Prime Minister, who said the barricades were not meant for the media. Well, shortly after, the barricades were removed. Things that make you go,
According to the statement issued by OPM, the plan moving forward is for reporters to use the press room for interviews. Reporting for Our News, I'm Bethany McDermott.
Meanwhile, as the Hilton Resort prepares to close its doors in 2 weeks, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism Chester Cooper says the new management company will likely recall most, if not all, employees terminated by the hotel.
To solve the issue, they need a manager, a brand, a network that they can draw on and get guests to come to the property. And then, of course, the jobs will be available for the qualified applicants. I won't speak for them, but I am satisfied that they would recall some or most of the employees should that outcome happens.
China Construction America, the owner of the Hilton Resort, cited a dismal business forecast for the foreseeable future as the reason for the closure of the hotel on February 15th. If a new management company is secured quickly, Cooper expects the closure of the property to be brief.
The owners of the Hilton CCA are speaking actively with other potential brands, management companies. Some of them are well known to all of us, and we will wait to see the outcome of those discussions. Suffice to say, it is the intention of CCA to close the hotel on February 15th, as has been announced. And at the same time, if they are able to secure a new management company swiftly, the closure period could be very short.
In other news, education officials giving an update on the ministry's plan to address learning gaps among students as the fate of national examinations this year is still up in the air. Here's Megan Shepard.
Students across the country have returned to a hybrid learning model, but some parents and teachers are still anxiously awaiting a full return to the classroom. Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, Glenys Hanna-Martin, says that education officials are still awaiting the green light from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. She adds that presently her ministry is developing a national diagnostic test to assess where students are academically, socially, and possibly psychologically.
Thereafter, develop acceleration programs to try and bridge the gap that has been created by COVID-19 in the last 2 years in this country. So to answer your question in a nutshell, I'm very grateful. I think children are happy. They're in a social environment. They're interacting with teachers. I'm told there's even some level of physical education, non-contact. So a level of normalcy.
While the test is expected to be rolled out as soon as possible, Minister Hanna-Martin says that she understands the importance of not applying overwhelming pressure to the student body at this time.
There are some domestic, local testing that the Ministry of Education has, but we're also looking, though, to do something a little more complex in terms of the additional programs for accelerated learning. And so I wouldn't want to give a timeline except to say I have asked that it be accelerated so that it can be implemented as soon as possible. But we also know, research also says you don't want to bombard a child with a test. They've been through a very traumatic experience. This has been very, very difficult, and the research is showing that the loss is not just learning, it's in some instances it's psychological.
And as schools across the country are expected to close in just a matter of months, the question of national examination arises. Minister Hanna-Martin says that at this point, no decision has been made.
I've asked the Director of Education to advise us on that. That will have to take into consideration a number of items. It's a mixed bag because there's some people who have fared well on the virtual reality, and they want to go to university and all of that. And then there are others who have paid a high price during this time. So we have to find the right approach to ensure that every child's specific needs are met in this process.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Prime Minister Philip Davis says potential Dubai investors are not sold on investing in the economically challenged Grand Bahama.
The challenge has been that investors' confidence have waned over the many years, and we have been in our movements seeking to restore that confidence. I can see investor confidence in the Bahamas is rising exponentially. I mean, it's really the much interest in the Bahamas today has really grown and continues to grow. But for Grand Bahama, there's always this sort of question mark. And why is that question mark? Right? They are willing to invest in the Bahamas, a lot of investors.
Prime Minister Davis led a delegation to Expo 2020 in Dubai last month, signing a memorandum of understanding with the United Arab Emirates for technical assistance.
We are working on how we could restore fully the confidence in investors to invest in Grand Bahama.
Partly cloudy skies outside the R News studios. Greg Thompson is in the Weather Center with the latest.
Thanks, Christine, and welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this Tuesday evening. Outside our studios right now, temperatures in the low 70s, 70 outside our studios with partly cloudy skies, east-northeast winds, 30 miles per hour, a little on the breezy side, and your feels-like temperature at 66 degrees. Satellite view, high pressure remains in charge across the area at the surface, but we have a little bit weak disturbance in the Gulf of Mexico that's bringing some high to mid-level clouds across us, filtering some sunshine, so we saw some partly cloudy to sunny skies today. The winds are kind of tight, and the gradient will continue to tighten over the next couple of days, so we're looking at some breezy conditions tonight with rather cool temperatures. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, help for the homeless on Grand Bahama, plus why the Minister of Education says education is everyone's business. Stay with us.
Get that glorious internet connection back in business within seconds with the new self-help modem reset. Just follow these very easy steps. Step 1, call 601-2200 or 242-300-2200. Number 2, select option 3. Step 3, select option 2. Step 4, enter your 8-digit account number. Step 5, follow the prompts. It's really that simple. Rev, you and us together.
Prime Minister Philip Davis making a number of pledges for Grand Bahama, including job creation and help for the homeless. Jasmine Brown reports.
A part of the Prime Minister's mission in Grand Bahama will be to address derelict buildings like this one that he says have become homes for the homeless here in Grand Bahama. Davis says there are many homeless people on Grand Bahama who are living in poor conditions.
And unfortunately, they're living in conditions that are not conducive to their well-being. Their health is jeopardized, and their well-being is jeopardized when you consider the conditions under which they live. I was taken by a dilapidated building where persons are living, and that it is intended that building will be taken down, and as a result of that, these persons will be displaced and homeless, even though they are homeless now, because they're just squatting in these dilapidated apartments.
The Prime Minister's comments came as Minister of State for Grand Bahama Ginger Moxie announced plans to partner with the private sector to renovate more than a dozen homes on the island.
The Minister has, in collaboration with corporate Grand Bahama and the Royal Bahamas Police Force, have collaborated to renovate homes owned by the Royal Bahamas Police Force that has been abandoned and sitting idly and in many instances in a bad state of repair.
In addition to providing temporary homes, Davis pledged his administration will also provide counseling and jobs to help get them back on their feet. Minister Moxie says the corporate community will adopt the houses and take on the financial responsibility of restoring them.
You have the major companies that are doing well, but right next door you have people who can't eat, and that can be right. And so what we're looking at is to tap into the heart of these organizations.
About 100 young men and women are engaged in the cleaning up exercise.
Davis says he has asked officials in Grand Bahama to find a way to make the program permanent so the workers can keep their jobs. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Meanwhile, education officials making outreach efforts in the Anglerston community today as Education Minister Glenys Hannah Martin joined union leaders and the administration of E.P. Roberts Primary School for a community walkabout.
A school is not just a place where you send your children for the teacher and the principal and you drop them off to the gate. This kind of facility, this institution, this requires so much input, so much support from the community, from parents, from the state.
Principal Manisha Pratt says it takes a village to ensure students are actively participating in hybrid learning, as the percentage of students logging in or attending to campus is still low.
We only have right now about 70% of our students who are actually, and I would say that for both virtual and face-to-face. Well, face-to-face has increased over the last week. We're now 77%, but our virtual login is still one that we have to improve upon.
Meanwhile, learning gaps are already taking a toll in the classrooms.
Basic skills and concepts that they would have learned, they have to be retaught. And so we're finding that some children are 1 grade level behind, up to 2 grade levels behind in their education.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, what one expert says you should do if you're attacked by a dog. And a Bahamian baseballer looks to knock it out of the park in Florida. The details when our news returns.
Get that glorious internet connection back in business within seconds with the new self-help modem reset. Just follow these very easy steps. Step 1, call 601-2200 or 242-300-2200. Number 2, select option 3. Step 3, select option 2. Step 4, enter your 8-digit account number. Step 5, follow the prompts. It's really that simple. Rev, you and us together.
This is our news. Welcome back. Would you know what to do if attacked by a dog? Dog trainer Clifton Bowe is speaking out. He shows our Sharika Johnson how you can protect yourself if attacked.
After a woman was mauled by dogs in her neighborhood, dog trainer and owner of Canine College, Clifton Bowe, is today calling on dog owners to take responsibility for their pets.
Your dog should always be secured. From you decide to say, I'm going to own a dog, you should make the proper provisions to have that dog secured at all times. When a dog goes in a pack or becomes loose, at the end of the day, even though they're domesticated, they're still dogs.
The pit bull breed usually gets a bad rap for its aggressiveness, but Bowe says these dogs are not inherently ferocious. Training plays a big part.
It's based on training, it's based on socialization, it's based on the exposure the dogs receive, it's based on the treatment and the wellness that the dogs are living in. That goes a long way.
Though a dog attack can be unpredictable and scary, Bowe says there are some things you can do if you are attacked.
Stand your ground, make yourself look big. But if I decide to run, what's going to happen now is the dog is going to go into predator versus prey. I'd advise you to poke their eye, reach for their private parts, yuck it down, but that's the most of you could possibly do.
Bowe says roaming or loose dogs in your community should be reported to Animal Control or the Canine Department. For our news, I'm Sharika Johnson.
In sports tonight, Buddy Hield struggles in another Kings loss. Meanwhile, a local umpire takes his skills to Florida. Marcellus Hall tells us more tonight in sports.
Thanks again and welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. To say this season has been a bit of a disappointment for the Kings and Buddy Hield would be sort of an understatement. Last night, trying to improve on it just a bit, hoping for a win, things turned out not quite the way they'd planned and certainly not the way Buddy had wanted. Let's take a look. From the NBA, Buddy Hield and the Sacramento Kings, they were on the road taking on the New York Knicks. Kings have been struggling this season. That didn't change last night. They go down yet again. 116-96 ends up being the final score. Not a particularly impressive night for Buddy either. He played 27 minutes, had 11 points, 5 rebounds. He also had a block and a steal. Didn't shoot well from the floor, however. Just 4 of 13 from the field, 3 of 12 from three-point range. He's got to get back on track as well as does his team. Their next game will come your way. That'll be on Wednesday when they take on the Brooklyn Nets. Meanwhile, veteran umpire Martin Park-Burroughs on the road this past weekend in Fort Myers, Florida, where he officiated a number of games with teams from around the world, including the Czech Republic, as well as Team USA and the top-ranked softball team in the world, and a team from New Providence as well. According to Burroughs, it was just great being back on the field and being able to officiate.
It was good to get back behind the plate to see some real good fastball pitching. It's a pleasure. I had a good opportunity to come down here, and the good thing about it is, they just finished ISC World Men Games, and we got 9 umpires down here this weekend, and 5 of those guys been in that umpiring in that tournament. So to umpire at this level with the quality umpires is always a pleasure.
Now, Burroughs said that he hopes to be able to continue to officiate at events like this one, as well as many more down the stretch.
This is the first U.S. Men's Open I had an opportunity to call, but I'm sure it wouldn't be the last. I then got an invitation to be back here next year again from Mr. Warren Jones, the tournament director.
And there it is. You look at sports for you here on this Tuesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you.
Thanks, Marcellus. Still to come, government working to complete restoration work following Hurricane Dorian. That's coming up when our news returns.
Get that glorious internet connection back in business within seconds with the new self-help modem reset. Just follow these very easy steps. Step 1, call 601-2200 or 242-300-2200. Number 2, select option 3. Step 3, select option 2. Step 4, enter your 8-digit account number. Step 5, follow the prompts. It's really that simple. Rev, you and us together.
Welcome back to our news. Partly sunny skies ahead. Greg is back in the Weather Center with the details.
Thanks again, Christina. Welcome back, everybody, for our second look at weather on this first day of February. High pressure remains in charge of our weather at the surface, and that high is centered just to the north of the islands, bringing in a northeast to easterly flow. Milder temperatures expected for at least another day as this high continues to slide out towards the east. Low pressure system in the Gulf of Mexico interacting with that high, tightening our pressure gradient. So we're looking at breezy conditions continuing, and as that high slides out into the Atlantic, our winds will turn more towards the east to southeast, tapping into a warmer flow. So we're looking at increasing temperatures through the remainder of the week. Boating forecast for all areas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the northeast to east at 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 7 feet over the ocean. High tide will be at 8:03 tonight. Here's a look now at your national forecast. A look now at your extended forecast through Tuesday. That's a look at our weather. Back to you, Christina.
Thanks, Greg. The Davis administration has signed a letter of engagement with Holland and Knight Law Firm in a bid to access funding to help with post-Dorian restoration efforts. Prime Minister Philip Davis explains how it will work.
That company, law firm, is lobbying for us to identify. There are a lot of funding out in the world, particularly for climate change, for medical matters, particularly after COVID. There's quite an appetite to assist jurisdictions such as ours, a small island developing state, and to navigate through the maze to get to it. We need some assistance.
While the Prime Minister did not say how much it costs to hire the firm, he says it was being taken care of by a private donor.
I want to thank them publicly, but they want to remain anonymous for the time being. We expect to see some results from that as well.
Prime Minister,
that's why I'm confident that we'll be able to deliver in short order our promises.
Thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Christina Dragovich. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Have a beautiful evening, Bahamas.